Hey guys, a bit of a background on this video. When it comes to running tests in parallel on Appium, it is not as easy as, for example, running tests in parallel for Selenium, for browsers, or for API tests. And the reason is simple. You can have multiple browser instances open on your same machine, but you cannot have, for example, two instances of the same app running on the same machine. And what that means is if you have 5 test cases, and if you want to run all of them in parallel, you need at least 5 devices. Um, if you're trying to run it for virtual emulators, for example, for Android emulators, then there are certain things that you need for it to work. So, for example, the system port has to be different, the device ID has to be different, and the fact that when you're trying to run your tests in parallel, and when you're trying to fetch your device IDs, there you need to go sequentially. It becomes a little bit more trickier to solve it, and I think that's probably the reason why I see a huge amount of internet community struggling to run tests in parallel on Appium. With this project Happium, I have solved that. So now you can run your tests in parallel on your local machine in 4 different modes. So you can run your test classes in series, your test cases within each class in series. You can run your test classes in parallel, but the test cases in series, or you can run your test classes in series, but test cases in parallel, or you can run both your test cases and your test classes in parallel. Of course, for this you need to have a powerful device, and there also you will have a certain limit on how many emulators you can spin up on the same machine. And maybe it's also worthwhile to say that I have not come across any framework in JUnit which can run test cases in parallel on your local machine. So there are some frameworks where they use JUnit and you can run your test on, let's say, on browser stack or on source lab on clouds. But when it comes to local machine, the only frameworks that I've seen are built in testng, and most of them are paid frameworks, so you have to pay to get access to them. And on top of that, uh, there's a tight coupling that happens between how you run your tests in parallel with your devices, which in my opinion is a bad design. In this framework, you have absolute freedom, you have absolute flexibility, your devices are not tightly coupled to your test cases, and you can easily run your test cases or classes in parallel without having to change anything in your actual code, which by the way is what I see when people are trying to run test cases in parallel on testng. They say depending on each mode, you either have to use after each or you have to after all, and that again in my opinion is a bad design because you have to touch code when you're picking a specific execution mode. So without any further delay, uh, maybe in the coming videos, in each video I will show how you can pick a specific mode just by changing the configuration in this file JUnit platform properties. So just by changing a configuration here, you will be able to run your test in series or in parallel. So more to come in the next video. Over and out. See you later. Bye bye.